Yo, welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Football Malpractice Show presented by Razzball. I am Donkey Teeth, and we're joined by the Boof's Glass of Whiskey tonight and special guest RotoWan of Razzball and of Fantasy Alarm. What's happening, RotoWan?
Not much, DT. I shaved the second of my quarantine beards just yesterday. I was getting a little Roethlisberger-esque, so needed to give it the chop.
Feeling a little naked?
Very naked, yeah. I normally have like a decently groomed beard, but with, everything going on, I've given up on life in general. So,
well, it'll come back, man.
That's the good thing about beards. They do come back.
I saw Boof like slide in and out. Boof's he's having some family stuff going on. I think he said that he was. I don't. Is it okay to talk about spanking your kids these days in 2020? I don't know if you should be doing that, Boof.
Not here to defend himself. So say anything we want.
We'll rib him when he gets back. But we're going to talk about. Let's see. We got a little bit of news to talk about today. We got Scott Fish Bowl happening, so that's going to be the majority of the show. There's the Boof. Boof, how's it going, man?
Hey, team. My kid was seeing monsters.
Oh no!
Had to go take care of it, but
you scare them away?
Oh no! Actually, what I like to do is say that the monsters are there to protect you. So I just encourage the fact that they're there, but we try to make it a friendly thing. I don't know. It's trial and error, man. I don't know what I'm doing.
Monsters are people too,
Yeah.
Whatever works.
So what are we doing? What are we talking about?
Okay, so we're talking about mostly Scott Fish Bowl. We're going to talk about RotoWan's RazzBowl experience. He was one of the creators of the RazzBowl format, mastermind behind the Better Ball format. So we're going to pick his brain a little bit on how he thinks that we should be playing it. But off the bat here, we're going to talk about the huge news. Raheem Mostert, he's demanding a trade from the 49ers. I actually happened to be on the clock in Scott Fish Bowl when the news came across. Ooh. And this was pick number 11 of round number 10. And I took carry on. I had to take carry on. I had been eyeing him the whole time. I've got his fat head now. I couldn't not take carry on. Ryan McDowell was on the turn there. He passed on Coleman too. I thought he was going to take him. So it came back. I was talking to you guys in the chat about this show. RotoWan said he thought I should take Coleman. I'm not crazy about it. I'm still not sure that it was the right pick. I'm just not excited about the 49ers offense. I just don't know what Kyle Shanahan's gonna do, who he's gonna give it to on any given week. Don't know that this trade is gonna end up happening. Anything will come of it. But RotoWan, since you convinced me to pull the trigger, I did pull the trigger. I made the pick. Give me your sales pitch here on Tevin Coleman and what you think about this Raheem Mostert news.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the last man standing. With you've got Mostert, who looked great for sections of last year, and then Jerick McKinnon, who has no knees, and Breed is out of town. So you eliminate all of those other factors, and if Coleman does become the main guy, I don't think he would ever be the lead back in a non-rotation, because they would mix in Jeff Wilson or McKinnon if he does get healthy, or they'll find somebody off the street that Kyle Shanahan works his voodoo magic on that turns them into a stud running back. But somehow, some way, I just have a feeling that Coleman will be very useful for a stretch of this season, mainly relying on touchdowns. He's kind of a one-note running back, but it's a good offense, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely good for the running backs position. They were highly, highly efficient last year.
There was one game that they threw the ball, 15 times? Some crazy number.
Yeah, I was a Garoppolo owner for in a 2 QB league, and there were some weeks where he just completely – you always think you have such a safe floor with quarterback, but he was efficient, but they just didn't use him a lot of times. And their defense was great. It was a perfect storm to not need 40 attempts. Yeah, I think it's a fine take. I mean, whoever, if anyone gets 15 to 20 touches, rushing and receiving in that offense, it's going to be a nice thing. The problem is you don't know who it's going to be. But should Mostert get traded, then Coleman steps up. I'm still a McKinnon believer, and I have him stashed on a number of dynasty teams because either I already had him, honestly, from the year he was a free agent pickup for the Vikings, or got him into total throw-in. I'm still just holding out hope. I mean, they paid him at the time, wasn't he the highest paid running back or something?
It was a big
outrageous?
Contract, yeah.
And, he's never been played a friggin' down. I would imagine they're kind of interested in at least seeing if he can be a helpful piece.
Yeah, you would figure since they haven't cut him. I don't know what the guarantees are, but.
Yeah, so I still kind of holding on to that. He's definitely the least expensive in drafts. I mean, Jeff Wilson's Jeff Wilson. I mean, if he gets touches, whatever, but he's not a talent. McKinnon at least has interesting talent. But yeah, I mean, that's interesting. Requesting a trade, how many times does that turn into anything at all? What I read, I think Sigmund Bloom on Twitter today, after this happened, basically said he just wants to get paid like Tevin and McKinnon. He's a UDFA. These guys got big contracts and they're terrible. He's good. I think it's reasonable. Maybe they cut someone else. I think someone said Tevin Coleman's contract is offloadable. So what if they got rid of Coleman and paid Mostert? I don't know. Could be interesting, though. Either way, if we can get one running back out of that rotation, that's good for us, I think. So, yeah. Whether you whether you already have Mostert, you get Coleman a little later, or you even take a dive at McKinnon in the teens rounds, late teens even, I think it's probably worth a poke. So.
Yeah, and McKinnon, I'm with you. I mean, he's pretty much free. I guess if in Scott Fish Bowl, not necessarily because it's so deep. I mean, your late teen picks, I still call it free. He's going off the board, and this is going to go up with the news. He's only been drafted in 6 drafts, so take it with a grain of salt.
Got to be 15 plus. 15 round.
170, minimum 153, probably right after the Mostert news. Max at 201. So he's the 61st running back off the board. And then we got Tevin Coleman. This will rise a little bit too, but he's currently the 41st running back off the board. His range has been down at 78, again, probably right when that news broke, and then all the way up at 148. His ADP is 120. And then you got Mostert. He clocks in at the 25th running back off the board in the Scott Fish Bowl with an ADP of 64. So that'll probably rise a little bit too. Yeah, I think that pretty much licks it. I mean, I agree, I guess, with what everybody said. You're right, RotoWan. He probably is going to have a stretch of value one way or another. I think it's hard to count on Mostert himself if he doesn't get traded to stay healthy for a whole season. So there probably will be a stretch with Coleman, but it's going to be a headache trying to predict what week to start who, unless it gets whittled down like we're talking about. So
yeah.
I ended up pulling the trigger. So obviously I'm with you there. The other piece of news we want to talk about here before we do dive into the Scott Fish Bowl is Zack Moss, the rookie out of Utah, taken by the Buffalo Bills. Somebody on the Bills official site, I don't know, it's kind of a cryptic message here on Roto World. Read what exactly was it. The Bills official website confirms the team wants third-round running back Zack Moss to play a similar role to Frank Gore's. So Frank Gore, I think he ended up with, I was pulling that up and I forgot about it. I think he ended up with like 180 carries last year or something like that. Does that sound right, Booth?
I think it was 180 touches, 166 carries. I just pulled it up.
And that was with Singletary hurt for a stretch.
That's right. It was with Singletary hurt. RotoWan, let's kick it over to you, though. Are you interested in Zack Moss here?
Somewhat, yeah. I think the path to value for both Buffalo running backs is Josh Allen getting hurt because he steals so many of the goal line looks. If he were to go out, I'm a bigger fan of Allen than most, so I'll give him more credit. But a lot of people think he's not that good of a quarterback. Can they still run a similar offense without him? Maybe. You're not really requiring your quarterback to do a ton. And, then that opens up goal line looks for both running backs. I kind of think that, you don't want Josh Allen to have a huge injury, just like a 1 or 2 week injury, cash a couple touchdowns to add to your year-end total there.
Yeah.
You're getting
Yeah,
pretty
I mean,
specific with your requests over there, RotoWan.
Right, like you got to be playing the Dolphins and then the Jets.
Yeah.
I don't know if those back to back on the schedule, but like, or two separate instances will work. Like, you know,
or you get Josh Allen, who's got some kind of injury that limits his rushing ability, but he can
Right.
still play. You know,
like
he'll still start.
a lead ankle or something where it doesn't,
Yeah.
kill him. But.
Yeah, just tape him up. He's a little immobile, but I mean, who knows what that offense would look like if Josh Allen can't run? Oof, that's tough.
Yeah,
but,
a sidebar on that. Something I'm interested in this year is actually betting under win totals on teams that rely on a mobile quarterback, so like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, even Kyler Murray. Like if Murray went out, the Cardinals would be dead in the water.
Yeah.
So that if they miss any stretch of time, those unders would be pretty much guaranteed money.
You're just thinking about COVID there?
I think that's kind of a more like that affects everyone the same. What I'm looking for is guys who rush that, invite contact by rushing and thereby have a higher injury risk.
Also, I just feel like, I think the jury's a little bit out, but I think that designed QB rushes are not quite as concerning for injury as like a Josh Allen scramble type rush where,
right.
Things break down. Who knows who's coming from what angle? But like, I really kind of believe that L-Jax's style and what they're doing as an offense is a sidebar, but I think he's certainly not immune to injury, but I think he's controlling the hits because it's a designed run with blocking, whereas a scramble artist, that's a little bit, I think, more dangerous. But going back to the Gore role, he led the team in rushing from an attempt standpoint at 166. I know there's some Singletary fans. I don't think he is. I think his role is about the same. And so that means there's probably 160. Moss can catch, so maybe, 20 more receptions. I think Moss could push 180, 200 touches right off the bat. And I think he's interesting. I mean, at his cost, I can't remember what his ADP is, but I've drafted him at least in some mocks, I think, like real late. I mean, even in a standard league, like
10, he's
11,
not expensive.
10, 11, 12 rounds deep. And he's going to have a pretty defined role, I think. So I like that. And I think he's he's going to be better than Frank Gore was. So we'll see, but I'm certainly interested at cost. I mean, he could be a flex 2, priority bench, that kind of thing. And you don't have to pay anything. I think there's a path to immediate playing time. And I like betting on immediate playing time, not necessarily because I'm going to put it in my roster, but because they will have a chance to show that they're worth more, touches. If they're on the bench, they can't show it. But if they're on the field, they can show it. And so I like that there's an opportunity there.
Yeah, so he's 45th running back off the board currently in Scott Fish Bowl. This is Zack Moss, ADP of 127. Now, remember, these are super flex leagues, so he'll go a little bit higher than that in your standard league. So he's not exactly free. His range of picks has been a minimum of 87, maximum of 154. I think that's about the range that I ranked him. I dropped my top 60 running back rankings just today, actually, and I want to say he was right around that 45 range. I do think that he's got nice upside. I mean, I've been saying the same thing as you, Boof. I just don't see Singletary as a bell cow back that some people are dreaming about him being. I mean, he was being drafted in the second round of drafts back. This was back before the NFL draft when people were not expecting the Bills to go and draft somebody. They bring Moss in. I mean, RotoWan, you hit it on the head with Josh Allen, and that's why I was kind of conservative. I ended up putting Zack Moss at number 45. This is PPR ranking, so he's not going to catch a ton of passes, I don't think, in this offense. But he's kind of a bruiser type. He could handle those goal line carries. But Josh Allen, he's been, 2 seasons now, and he's got 8 and 9 rushing touchdowns. It's starting to, it seems like an outlier if a quarterback gets 9 rushing touchdowns in a season. But when he's done it 2 straight years, and that first season he only started 11 games and scored 8 times on the ground.
They
At
love
this
the
point-
QB sweep from like the 5.
Oh,
They
yeah.
call it almost every green zone they get.
He's a big boy too. I mean, he can.
Yeah.
Once you get in there at the 1, it's not.
You get an extra blocker. It's just kind of unfair.
I mean, it's like Cam. I mean, from Cam's rookie season until 2015, he had 14 rushing, 8, 6, 5, 10. I mean, that's just, and he was their goal line back. And I think you're accurate. And there's just not, it's not typical, but he's that type of guy.
Yeah. So I think the real value in Moss, I mean, he's a nice best ball play. I think he's going to have his weeks. It'd be nice not to have to predict when those weeks are, but I think the real value in him is if and when Singletary does go down. And I think that there's bell cow potential, and he could put up some real numbers if Singletary is out of the picture. So that's kind of the hope for me with him. I think he's a nice play in Scott Fish Bowl. I mean, you need to hit on those kind of guys that the home run if you're going to win this overall competition with 1,400 people, right, guys?
Yep.
100%.
Speaking of the Scott Fish Bowl, how's it going, RotoWan?
Pretty well, man. I have drafted largely the team I set out to draft. It always feels good to be able to hit most of your targets. I played some quarterback chicken and was able to get Teddy Bridgewater at pick. Let's see. He was pick 811. So, I had to wait. I was picking from the 102, so I had to wait the whole long stretch back and watch 3 other quarterbacks get taken when there were 4 left that were viable.
That sweat so good though.
Yeah, it was. It felt so good. And the guy too before me who took Jarvis Landry, he'd also said he was hoping Bridgewater was going to fall back to him and was thinking about taking him. And I was like, well, A, that was dumb because that was never going to happen. I obviously need a quarterback with 2 bites at the apple. But thank you.
Yeah. Well, I got a bad. Well, you go ahead with more of your team.
Yeah. Then the rest of the team, Wentz. I had to take him in the 2nd round. Just super flex. You got to get a QB 1 at some point. Saquon was my 102. I got Darren Waller. RazzBall required Darren Waller, as well as RazzBall required Terry McLaurin. So. Pretty balanced squad thus far. Very happy with that. That's one of the big takeaways from the Fish Bowl, if you've played it before, is you start getting into the trenches, and if you're really thin at a position, it becomes a major problem. You just can't find things on the wire to replace value, and not setting yourself up for that in the draft by doing something like 0 RB or RB heavy, I feel like is the way to go.
Yeah, I have a story of playing chicken that did not end well. Last night I was about to go to bed, but I was getting close to, I think it was 7:09, and then I'd have 8:04 coming back, and they were chatting in the group chat, so I knew everybody was up. So I'm like, well, if I make my pick, I'm gonna come around, I'll pick 2 and go to bed. And I wanted Terry McLaurin and Darius Geis. I want to do a Washington stack there. And I was kind of talking to my wife. We were getting ready for bed, and I knew in my head the guys at 10, I'm 9, so the guys at 10, 11, 12 all had running backs, did not have any receivers. So I kind of knew there's a good chance some receivers were going to go. But I just really wanted Geis because I only had 1 running back at the time, Joe Mixon. And I just took Geis like an idiot. I should have taken McLaurin because I knew nobody was going to take running back. It's like just kind of a game theory type mistake I made. So take Geis. I then realized, oh, crap, I'm going to lose McLaurin. Coming back around 1 pick before me, McLaurin goes. So now there's not a receiver I really, really want. And so I go another running back, Sony, in the 8:04. And then a wide receiver runs happen. I think like 7 out of the next 8 picks are all wide receivers. I got sucked in on the back end of the receiver run. It's coming all the way looping back around. There is a guy or 2 that I'm still interested in at receiver to take coming back at 9-9. But simple mistake. I mean, Geis would have been there for me if I would have just taken McLaurin first. It was one of those mental unforced errors. I don't know. I just clicked Geis. I shouldn't have done it. But I played chicken there. I shouldn't have done it. So, but yeah, my team's shaping up to started with Kelsey Mixon 1 and 2, and then went Galladay Moore at 3-4, which I wasn't really planning on doing. I had wanted to kind of get a running back if I liked anybody, but I just after that top tier running backs, everyone just kind of blends into me. So I didn't want to force it. I actually like having those 2 receivers early though, because while the position is deep, now I'm not desperate for a receiver and everyone's taking receivers. So I can do some other things, maybe get a QB3, tight end 2, because I'm real comfortable with Galladay Moore as my top 2. And then, obviously I'll fit in 3 and flex spots, but kind of like not being forced. I feel like everyone right now is just on a wide receiver run. Everyone has to take them. So I can hopefully cherry pick some of the things I like. And then Cam and Ryan Tannehill, I took at 5-6 turn. Pretty happy about that. I mean, it's a risk, but like, I mean, I've got Geis and Newton who could be top 10 at their position. Well, Newton even higher, but Geis could be like a RB1 if they give him all the carries, but it's just one of those home run shots. I'm not looking to finish 6th. I'm looking to finish 1st. So just kind of home run swings there. Normally I don't love injured running backs, but
no, I don't think that was a bad move taking Geis over Terry. I mean, I know that Rudy's projections are crazy about Terry. I like Terry too, but Geis has plenty of upside himself, and running backs are much more difficult to come by. You've already gone heavy wide receiver on your build. You can find wide receivers in Scott Fish Bowl through Fab. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but it's much easier than finding a running back or a quarterback.
Or a tight end with the premium.
Yeah. I mean, Kelsey at 9 for me was a no-brainer. I love that pick. I mean, I know people freak out about, what are you going to do with the rest of your roster? But like, Kelsey's truly irreplaceable.
No, he'll be easily a top 10 player. I mean, his floor is so high. He's played 16 games for like the past 5 seasons. I think he's missed like 1 game in his career or something like that, or since his rookie season, and that was just a game that he sat out because the Chiefs were locked into the playoffs already. So his floor is just so high in this format. I agree. I've played chicken on tight end, and I may come to regret it. I've got a long time before it gets back to me, and 18 are already off the board. So,
ooh, wow. Who's there? Like, who are you even kind of looking at?
I'm crossing my fingers that one of Herndon or Irv Smith makes it back to me, because everybody's got 1 or 2 or even 3 tight ends right now. So,
is Greg Olsen there?
Greg Olsen's there. I mean, 18 off the board. There's about 25 tight ends that I'm not excited about, but comfortable with.
Get a pass. If I didn't get Waller, I was definitely looking to wait to the spot you're at. Load up before taking a tight end.
I think Olsen has it. I've been drafting him in some spots, deep leagues and some mocks I'm doing just to see what happens. I mean, he's gonna get 4 or 5 targets, I would think, right off the bat. So if you go Olsen and Irv, Olsen and one of the other guys you're talking about, maybe that you might need to wait and see how it plays out. Olsen's going to get, I think, 4 to 5 targets immediately, I would think. So,
I kind of like Disley too out there in Seattle. I mean, he's not going to be healthy for a full season, but when he plays,
he was great. I mean, last year, yeah.
Olsen and Disley are probably both going to be hurt for half the season, so maybe you get a full season if you
have to line it up.
Have an egg.
Interesting thing here. I didn't mention it in our big Razzball group chat because I wanted to like double check on the ADP and make sure I wasn't being like a jackass here. But somebody took Damian Harris in the 10th round of my draft, and I was like, what am I missing here? Well, I'm not missing anything. I think maybe you misclicked or something like that. Maybe it was right after Sony Michel went off the board. Have there been any wild picks in your? That's like the only one that has been like, what? Damian Harris? Did he even get a carry last year?
4.
Yeah, it was not.
Dude, I think he's just legitimately not good. And I took Sony. And I don't want any Damian Harris, but I'll take Burkhead everywhere. I think Damian Harris just is not good. I think it's Sony or Burke if they have to, use a running back.
What about James White?
Well, his role will stay the same no matter what.
He's not a traditional running back.
Right. Let's see. I'm looking through my team here, or my league. Nothing strikes me. I mean, yeah, Damian Harris is crazy. Nothing strikes me as really out of line that I can remember. I'm just trying to see if anyone's rostering someone that was a big mistake. I thought Hayden Hearst. I know there's a lot of Hayden Hearst fans out there. He went a little higher than I thought.
Yeah, he went early in ours as well.
We're only in the 9th round, and I'm pretty sure he went in the 8th or even 7th.
He went in the 6th in ours, 605.
Wow, that is aggressive. He went in the 8th in mine, and I was eyeing him there at the end of the 8th. He went 2 picks before. I was thinking about taking him after the turn because I needed to land a wide receiver. But I like Hayden Hurst. I mean, the Falcons' offense is very tight end friendly.
For me, it's just like I'd be happy with Hurst or Austin Hooper or Blake Jarwin. There's like 4 or 5 guys right there that are all kind of the same, and whoever I can wait to get.
Yeah, there's no need to reach into the 6th round for them. I'm with you there.
Yeah, I just think he's not that good. Maybe I'm just too biased because of his age.
He came into the league at 24, 25 years old.
Yeah, he's like 27 now.
Yeah.
I will say, not shockingly in a bad way, but one of the guys on our team got 2 receivers at a really nice price. Amari Cooper at 5'10" was really good. And then 7'10" Keenan Allen. I mean, say what you want about Tyrod Taylor and that offense, but the end of the 7th round to get Keenan Allen, I mean, that was really good. I actually had to refrain myself because I just didn't need Keenan with my 2 receivers I'm pretty happy with. But I kept seeing him, and I was just like, how can I not pick him right now as my 3rd receiver? But Eric Harder is the guy, and he waited on receiver, and he ended up with Cooper and Keenan, which is actually pretty nice.
Well, same exact thing happened in my league, and actually it was the guy that we were talking about before the show, RotoWan. He was in your league last year. Tim I'm butchering his name, Burmersh. He's out in Belgium. He's our overseas guy. He's been a real trooper. He stayed up until like 2 a.m. last night, Boof, to get us past the turn so we could get another round.
What a guy.
But he took Amari Cooper at 5'12", and he took Keenan Allen at 7'12". So he even got two later on each of them. So
I'm in the Keenan club. I got him 6'11" as my wide receiver too, and
huge overpay.
Yeah,
Odell was the 502 for me, just the touchdown upside. So
I mean, I think Keenan's gonna. I mean, that's wide receiver 3 price, I would imagine, and he's gonna get 1,000 yards. I mean, he may not have 1,600, but I think he'll get to 1,000 and 7 touchdowns. That's not crazy.
I think if he's healthy, it's a crushed value.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I was just messing with you there, RotoWan. I like Keenan Allen as well.
How dare you?
But he was 23rd off the board at 7'12". So just the fade is so strong in this format on wide receiver that you get wide receiver 2 in the 7th round.
Yeah.
It's been a wild experience drafting in Scott Fish Bowl the past couple of years.
Yeah, it always is. You have to like break habits of mainly waiting on quarterback.
Yeah. Well, we've only got I just got the note here. We've only got 10 minutes left. So let's dive in a little bit on the RazzBowl here. So I mentioned it off the bat. RotoWan, I reached out to him when I came up with this genius Razzball idea last year, because RotoWan, he's a social butterfly out there. He knows all these guys in the industry. Integral part to the formation of Razzball. He did an awesome job recruiting guys last year. Never would have happened without RotoWan. But he also brought another huge piece to the table, which was this wrinkle of better ball, where you get the $10 of fab and only $10 of fab with $1 moves to be able to cycle out some of those dead roster spots in our best ball leagues, but also not make it, another headache to manage in season when we're all writing this content and managing our 100 teams because we're degenerate gamblers. So RotoWan,
that's a big problem for me.
How did it go year 1 for you in Razzball? And are you going to make any adjustments after that experience?
Well, first off, I appreciate that you do give me credit for that because you came to me and said, "Do you have any thoughts?" And we had workshopped it together, and you listened to my mindless drivel about some new league and managed to come up with a real product. But
Hey, at least you didn't come out there with your Game of Thrones. Yeah, he's got an
yeah,
awesome Game of
there's some
Thrones.
rules to that one. A League of
the
Ice
league.
and Fire.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I was actually really happy with the way it turned out. Mike Beers winning it, Pat Fitzmaurice coming in third, who you had on not that long ago on the pod. Neither of those guys used their fab, so that
wow
is actually what I like to see. Like the fab isn't there to enhance your team; it's there to prevent you from drawing dead with something like a quarterback injury. So, I guess the only better thing would have been somebody that had like Cam Newton, and they would have been able to replace them with Minshew or something. To be able to survive and still win the league would have been the optimal for our format. But yeah, very happy with it. And now that people know the rules, it was a brand new thing. A lot of people didn't fully grasp it. And as you've mentioned, explaining the format, it's the NFBC cut line. So there's a whole host of rules that go along with that. But yeah, the scenario played out really nicely. I finished fifth in my league, which just looking over my draft is really impressive because I started Juju and Todd Gurley at the I think I was picking 9th or 10th. So to overcome that was a good job by myself, if I can pat myself on the back a little bit.
You're the man.
So if you're asking me what I would alter coming into this year, it's to not draft bad players early.
Always a good plan.
That's going to help. But one of my main things was I took a shot at David Montgomery and backed him up with Mike Davis because there was still talk that Mike Davis should have a role in the Chicago backfield, et cetera. Even though that didn't work out, I think that's what you have to do. So, this year we were talking about Singletary and Moss. If you're on a best ball format and you can get Moss cheap enough, I think that's a really nice way to do it because you figure one of those guys should have a good game, either based on touchdown or yardage. Try and lock in things like that where you can is definitely a big best ball strategy for me. And probably do a better job of stacking things a little bit. I didn't correlate quarterbacks, receivers, and tight ends quite as much as I would have liked. So that's high on the to-do list.
Yeah, I really love the so just to go back to the creation of the league, Donkey, did you have this idea of best ball that switches to lineup? Whose idea was that? Because that's super cool.
That is NFFC's format. That's their cut line championship format, and it's been around for a few years. So they dreamed that part up, and looking through their formats, we came to them and we were just happy that they took us on and let us use their platform.
Yeah.
And so we didn't want to be too demanding with looking for all these customizations to the league format.
Yeah.
So this was the one thing that RotoWan threw out there that seemed like, this probably could be an easy enough tweak for them to make with their software. And we loved everything else about the cut line format. It's so unique, and it was genius of them to come up with that part for sure.
And I loved the better ball, except for spending like $6 of my $10 on Ty Johnson. Other than that, it was great. That was really fun. It was a super fun league. I think I won my league and then really crumbled after week 9, I guess it is. I had Connor and Bell as my first 2 picks, so super running back heavy. Connor was pretty fine for a while. Bell was never very good, but I had like Marquise Brown, who, had some insane explosion weeks early on, including week 1, which I was like, oh, wow, I really hit the jackpot. He had he was like 3 for 140 and 2 touchdowns or something like that. But otherwise, I feel like I really crumbled. It was kind of a really big whimper out in the post week 9 era, but started out hot and it was really fun. I like that you have to switch gears to have to make lineup decisions. But my running back, obviously Connor and Bell both kind of crapped out, so I just was really struggling.
No, yeah, and RotoWan brought up Pat Fitzmaurice, who we had on the pod a couple weeks ago, and same boat. I mean, he was top 3 the entire season. He won his league, total domination regular season like you, and then his team just fell flat on its face come playoffs. So that is one thing, if you're listening out there, to consider is, you got to make it to the big dance, but once you get there, some sort of foresight to hopefully try to align the stars so that once you get into the playoffs, you don't fall flat on your face. But I mean, it's going to happen. You're going to have injuries. Hopefully you've been able to accumulate depth either through the wire or just through good drafting. Look at those bye weeks, because there are going to be some bye weeks that smack you hard in the playoffs, and you don't want to be sitting there week 12 with all of your running backs on bye week in the playoffs and with no chance. So yeah, it's a fun format. A lot to think about. Year 2, we're all excited for it. But we're gonna wrap it up here. RotoWan, thanks for coming on, man. What are you getting into right now? I know you're doing a lot of MMA stuff over there at Fantasy Alarm.
Yeah, that's the one sport that survived. So it's been almost weekly. The UFC is in the Middle East right now, getting ready to kick off on Fight Island, which is not at all an island. It's just near water. But they're gonna run out, like 4 cards in 10 days or something crazy. I forget the exact number, but there's gonna be a lot of UFC action, so I'll be grinding that stone pretty hard.
Nice. And you're handling the baseball writing over at Razzball, the closer report, and the Sagnoff stuff, and with our crazy 60-game baseball season. And we're going to keep nudging you over on football, get you to write some sort of football. Everybody wants the RotoWan.
Yeah, I'll be in those streets a little bit,
Awesome. Well, go follow RotoWan out there on Twitter at Roto_Wan. Is that correct?
Correct.
Awesome. Follow Boof at AL_FF_RED. I'm at DonkeyTeeth87. Come find our show over here on YouTube. You're probably watching it on YouTube. If you could click that subscribe thing and the thumbs up and all that stuff, give us a comment or something.
Give us
like
the
that.
clicks.
Yeah, we appreciate it. All right, guys. Have a great night.
Take care.
Good night.